Well, g'day everyone, how's it going? Coming at you from the office studio today, and just wanted to talk about ND filters. You guys know I'm running with the Canon EOS R, and I want to let you know a little bit about why I use ND filters, what they're good for, and the way that I kind of use them with the EOS R adapted to EF lenses. Now, Canon, the R has an adapter which goes from the RF lens mount to EF lenses, and it has its own variable ND filter in that lens mount. And I like the idea, I love the concept, but at some point in time I'm wanting to move over to RF lenses. So for me, that's not a perfect solution. While I'm still on EF lenses and L series lenses, then I use filters on top of the lens, on the front of the lens, and I use the control ring adapter because I like that I can match up with the ISO, and I can do functions with that control ring adapter on the EOS R. So that means I'm adapting filters onto the end of my L series lenses, and up until recently I've been using Hoya variable NDs, and that's kind of my go-to ND. I have a few different stepper rings to step up, so I just own a couple of different ND variable NDs, and I use stepper rings to step those up. My current two main lenses, one I'm shooting on now is the Canon 24mm f1.4 L series. I think it's the second version of that lens, and the second one is this lens. Another one I use extensively is the 17-40 f4, also L series lens. They've both got 77mm filters and filter threads. One of the things that I kind of think there's a bit of a misstep with Canon is that they only provide this variable ND in this adapted situation. So when you're using an EF lens on the EOS R, there's no way to use that kind of setup when you're using RF lenses. Now, me wanting to move over to RF lenses eventually means that I can't use that setup long term. I can use it on my EF lenses, it's great, but I can't actually carry that over with me to RF. So that's why I really was searching and looking for some filters that were really going to suit my needs. And it just so happens that PolarPro reached out to me recently to ask if I wanted to check out some of their filters. And I have had this kind of thing in the past where companies have reached out to me wanting to send me things, but I always want to make sure that the value I'm providing to you is something that I would use myself. And so the fact that I'd used PolarPro lenses before on my drones, then I was able to say, yep, I love what the company stands for. I love what they're about. So yeah, they've basically sent me through a couple of their Quartzline filters. So this one, the ND8, they sent me through, and also the ND16. So I've just got their website up here. The ND8 is 3 stops of ND, and the ND16 is 4 stops of ND. So why then will you use these? What do you need these for? And I think the main reason for me with video is that I want to stop down light so that I can keep my settings the same. So for example, right now I'm shooting at 1.4, but if there was a lot more light in the room right now, I would have to up my either my aperture or my shutter speed. So I'd have to put my aperture at about 2, or let's say 3, f3, or I might have to boost my shutter speed up beyond 1/80 rule, which is at the moment I'm shooting in 25 frames a second. So my shutter speed is 50, and I don't want to have to crank that higher than that because I want to get that cinematic look, and I want my shutter to always be 180 degrees, which is double the frame rate that I'm shooting in. So in order to do that, when I've got a scene which has a lot more light in it, I need to use a filter on the end of the lens to stop down the light so that I can keep my existing settings. And that's why you need something like these filters. Now, as I said before, I've been using the variable ND filters, and they're great, but the thing that I've kind of thought about those is I've got this really expensive glass. I've got L series glass, which might be $2,000 or $3,000 in a lens, and then I'm putting a filter, well actually a variable ND filter is 2 polarizing filters over top of one another. So it's 2 separate filters, and then when you rotate it, they kind of work to stop down the light further in a variable fashion. So if it's open wide and the filters are kind of aligned, then it doesn't really give you much. But as you turn that filter, it closes down the, and maybe I actually have one here. I might just quickly grab one here and show you what I mean by that. I just have an older one here that I have for my 50mm lens. This was the first one that I ever got, and I can just show you what I mean by that. So essentially now you are able to see my eye through this filter. Can you see that? There you go. And then when I stop this filter down, you can see as I twist it, it darkens. And then as I open it, it lightens. Not sure if you can see it. Anyway, let me put it on the end of the lens here. So let's try this. So as I twist the lens, see how it darkens? And then as I twist the other way, it lightens. So that's essentially two opposing filters on top of each other. Now, I've got a $2,000 lens here, and then I've got a $100 maybe filter of two pieces of glass that I'm putting over that lens. And I started to really think about this being a bit of a problem where I'm actually wanting to keep the quality of the lens as best as possible without putting something over the top of it. And that's where the Canon EF to RF lens adapter with the variable ND is awesome, because they put that glass really close to the sensor. So it's light refracting through that is very, very close to the sensor. So as you get further and further away from the sensor, and certainly outside the elements of the actual lens, adding two opposing filters to me just seems like not a very smart idea. So PolarPro sending me out these filters was amazing, because these are actually their Quartzline filters. And what they do is, by the way, this video is not sponsored at all, but PolarPro is a company that I do align with. I have used their products before. So when they sent them out to me, I was stoked to check them out and show them to you guys, because I know you get value from these. But basically, it's a single piece of quartz glass, and it's very thin. It's only 1mm thin, 1mm in thickness. And I think that's probably the thinnest, or one of the thinnest variable NDs out there at the moment on the market. And certainly what I've seen in the reviews of these, the refraction and light color rendition is really, really, really good. So they come with this cool little case as well, which is really nice. And they also give you this, which is a little case for it as well. A soft case, soft pouch, which has got the ND8 written on there on the front, which is, I think that's really dope that they give you that extra bit of stuff. It also has got like a little rag in there, a little microfiber cloth with a cool little picture on it. Cool little picture. And sticker, and also this little card about the application. So there's an application that you can get where you can go on and figure out, for the light you've got, for the settings you've got, you can figure out what sort of ND you need. So right now this one's the ND8, which I think is 3 stops of light. So let's have a look at the filter. So there it is there. That's the filter. And the construction of these is really, really dope. Like, they're super, super nice. And PolarPro is a company, as I say, I like their company ethos. I love the products that they make. They're a company with engineers, me being an engineer, and that's been my background before I started filmmaking. I just really, really enjoy what they're doing as a company. So, and you can see here that if I sort of throw this in front of my face, it's stopping down that light. To put it in front of the camera here, and it's taking away light as I put it in front. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to check these out and see if the reviews that I've seen, are the same in real life. So what I'm going to do is I'll put this onto the camera and I'll adjust the ISO setting a little bit, but keep my aperture the same, keep my f-stop the same. And basically what I want to figure out is whether this has any color shift, whether there's any noticeable loss in quality, or whether you can notice that it takes away from the sharpness of the lens or anything. And I won't do any other thing with the footage except color grade it, or put a LUT on it if I think I'm shooting in C-Log right now. So I'll pop a LUT on it, and then I'll pop this filter over, and I'll give you a comparison between the two. And I might also chuck on the ND16 as well, which is 4 stops of light, stop down to ND16, and just roll through those now so you can have a look for yourself and see what you think. I know the reviews on these is that the color shift really is amazing. That remains to be seen, but I'll check it out now as I edit this video and see, and pop them up on the screen here so you can see for yourself. As I said, this isn't sponsored, but I really like the products. I think these probably represent some of the best filters on the market right now, and certainly I'll be using these. And the fact that I can go away from having a variable ND situation where there's 2 filters and go to a single filter, I think that's just going to keep my quality where I want it to be and make sure that I'm really getting the best out of my lenses as well. So why would you want to use these? Well, I guess if you're in a situation where you want to keep your settings locked off at f1.4 or really low depth of field, and you want to keep your shutter at twice the frame rate, then these are the way to go. And just on the site here, they offer PolarPro from ND8 all the way up to ND100, which is a whopping 15 stops of light. So 100K is massive, and I think that would be even black. But for photographers, that might be where you really want to drag the shutter or have a really super duper long exposure. I know that ND1000s are really popular for photographers, but I would probably just go with the 3 stops, which is the ND8 as a main one, up to the ND64, which is 6 stops of light. And that might be enough. I think my very ND went from ND8 maybe up to ND64, is it? So 6 stops, or maybe a little bit more than that. And that's all I've ever needed with ND. So yeah, these are the goods, and check it out. I reckon you'll be surprised by how good they look, how much they don't take away any quality in the image. And this gives me the option and the opportunity to use these when I go across to RF lenses as well, and not be stuck with the ND, the internal ND with the adapter. But also, PolarPro, if you're listening, you guys need to make some 95mm threads filters, because one of my biggest lenses I want to get is the RF 28-70 f2, and that actually has a 95mm filter thread. So making sure that you guys know that RF users are probably going to want to come to the party with your filters. And I think only at the moment there's 2 companies out there that are doing 95mm thread size filters. So I know it's a lot more glass, and it's probably going to be a lot more in terms of cost, but that might be something you guys can do. As I move across to RF lens, it'd be great if I could get some more of these and grab some 95mm thread ones. But yeah, hopefully that gives you guys some insight into how I'm going to work with the EOS R with putting NDs on, making sure that I'm not just going to a variable ND on the outside of the lens, but also having the opportunity to stop down the light once I am across on the RF lens, and eliminating the adapter. And so hope that helps you guys. And if you're looking for some of these filters as well, I'll throw links in the description below to where you can find them on Amazon. And yeah, even if you're not going to buy them, there's other filters that are out there similar to these. I know Hoya I've used before, and Tiffin filters, which probably price point wise might be a little cheaper. And as long as you're getting something that's got quality glass and quality workmanship, check out the reviews, then NDs are going to be, equivalent. Probably these are some of the better ones, but they'll be equivalent out there for cheaper. So check out what works for you. And thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.